All right. Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. You know, we love to bring you these deep dives,
Absolutely.
go deep into some really fascinating topics. And today's no different.
Yeah, looking forward to this one.
Today, we're diving into, well, I guess you could say, a different perspective on happiness.
Okay.
And the source material is a set of excerpts titled To E.T. To Today,
Interesting.
which is Thai for placed text.
Okay.
And, you know, you wouldn't really guess from the title that it's about happiness.
Right.
But these excerpts offer a very, very unique kind of roadmap to happiness.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see what this is all about.
Well, let's jump right in.
Let's do it.
The first excerpt, and this one really stood out to me,
Okay.
talks about the power of embracing uncertainty.
Mm.
It suggests that instead of fearing the unknown,
hmm
we should see it as a catalyst for growth and discovery.
Yeah, so much of our world is kind of geared towards eliminating uncertainty.
Right, like we want to know what's going to happen.
Exactly, and this is saying maybe there's a different way.
Yeah, maybe we should be embracing that uncertainty.
Yeah, because when you think about it, so much of like the joy of discovery
Mhm.
comes from not knowing and then finding out.
Exactly. It's like that element of surprise.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like reframing that fear into like, oh, this could be exciting.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah. So it's like flipping the script on how we normally approach uncertainty.
Absolutely. And I think, so much of like what holds people back
Yeah.
is that fear of not knowing what's going to happen next.
Yeah.
And I love the idea of, reframing it as like, this is actually an opportunity
Right.
to learn and grow.
And like you were saying, the more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. So,
Exactly.
it's just kind of like this never-ending cycle of
Right.
realizing that you don't know everything and being okay with that.
Totally. And then when you're okay with that, I think that's when you really open yourself up to all these new possibilities.
Yeah. And that kind of leads perfectly into the next excerpt, which focuses on embracing novelty.
Yeah.
Even in small ways.
Yeah.
So, this doesn't have to be like, quitting your job and,
Right.
traveling the world. Although
Yeah, that could be it.
that could be it. Yeah.
It just doesn't have to be.
But, it's really about those small things
Mm-hmm.
that you can incorporate into your daily life.
Absolutely.
Like trying a new recipe or taking a different route to work.
I love that. Yeah, just shaking things up a little bit.
Yeah, just to get yourself out of that rut.
Right, because when we get stuck in those routines,
Yeah.
it can kind of lead to that feeling of like staleness or boredom.
Right. It's like that same routine every single day.
Every day, yeah. And so even just like you said, tiny little things can make a big difference.
It's funny you mentioned that because I actually recently started learning a new language.
Oh, wow.
Just for fun.
It's awesome.
And it's been really challenging,
Yeah.
but it's also been so stimulating, and I feel like it's brought a new energy to my days.
I love that. And, I think that's a great example of how even something like that's, not necessarily going to like, change your life overnight,
Right.
but can just bring that spark of something new.
Yeah, it's something new to look forward to.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the next excerpt, which is a very interesting take on competition.
Okay. Competition, always a hot topic.
Yeah, for sure. And instead of portraying it as this like cutthroat, I got to win, you got to lose,
Right.
it really kind of reframes it
Okay.
as a chance for mutual growth and learning.
I like that. Yeah.
So, it's kind of looking at it like, how can we all grow together?
Yeah.
And it talks about this concept of friendship for mutual growth,
I like that friendship from mutual growth.
where individuals are supporting each other and learning from each other,
Right.
even as they're trying to, excel in whatever field they're in.
Yeah. I mean, you see this all the time, like in the world of sports,
Right.
where you have athletes that are competing against each other, but
But they're training together.
they're training together. They're pushing each other.
Exactly.
And they're also, celebrating each other's successes.
Yeah, I mean, but isn't there a problem with that, though?
What do you mean?
Like, doesn't competition by its very nature create winners and losers?
Yeah.
And doesn't that lead to division and, potentially unhappiness?
That's a really good point. And I think, we have to acknowledge that not all competition is healthy.
Right.
But I think what this text is really getting at is a specific type of competition.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about, tearing each other down.
Right.
It's about, like you said, that shared desire for growth.
Yeah.
And, where people are coming together and they're, they want to see each other succeed, even as they're, striving to do their best as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's not about, one person having to fail
Right.
for the other person to succeed.
Exactly. It's about that collective progress.
Right.
And I think that actually leads perfectly into the next excerpt, which talks about leadership.
Okay, yeah, it's like a very interesting take on leadership.
Yeah, this one I think is going to surprise some people.
Yeah, it kind of flips the script
Definitely.
because it's saying that true leadership isn't about being the smartest person in the room,
Mm-hmm.
but it's about making other people smarter.
Yeah. That's a big shift.
Yeah, it's a big shift from that traditional view of like
The leader at the top.
the leader at the top knows everything.
Yeah, the all-knowing leader.
And instead, it's more like a shared responsibility
Right.
where you're empowering other people.
It's more about like guidance and facilitation
Yeah.
rather than like dictation.
Yeah, and I think it's a much more effective way to lead
Absolutely.
because when you empower people,
Mm-hmm.
they feel more invested.
They're more motivated.
Exactly.
And they're going to come up with better ideas.
You know, it's funny because I was thinking about this and it reminds me of
Yeah.
a time when I was mentoring a colleague.
Okay.
And I went into it thinking like, okay, I'm going to share all my knowledge and I'm going to help them, grow.
Right.
But I ended up learning just as much from them as they learned from me.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really collaborative learning experience.
I love that. Yeah, I think that's a perfect example of what this text is talking about. It's
Yeah.
not about one person being the holder of all knowledge.
Right.
It's about, like you said, that free exchange of ideas and everyone feeling valued for what they bring to the table.
Absolutely.
Right.
All right, so we're going to move on now to what might be one of the most counterintuitive
Okay.
ideas that are presented in these excerpts,
Okay, I'm intrigued.
and that is the power of vulnerability.
Vulnerability.
Yeah, the text argues that being open about your weaknesses
Interesting.
can actually make you stronger and build trust with others. So, again, this is kind of like going against
Our natural instinct.
our natural instinct, which is to, hide our flaws.
Right. Put on that perfect face.
But the text is suggesting that there's actually strength in being vulnerable.
Yeah, I can see that because I think when we try to pretend like we're perfect, it creates this distance between us and other people.
Right, it's not authentic.
It's not authentic, and I think deep down we all crave that authenticity.
Yeah, like we want to connect with people who are real,
Absolutely.
not people who are pretending to be something they're not.
And I think about all the times in my life where I've felt closest to someone.
Mm-hmm.
It's been in those moments where we've both been able to let our guard down
Right.
and be real with each other.
Yeah, and just kind of admit that you don't have all the answers.
Exactly, and that it's okay to not be okay.
Yeah, and it's interesting because this whole idea of vulnerability, it actually connects to the next excerpt,
Okay.
which is about the importance of choosing your circle wisely.
Your circle.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
the text suggests that to cultivate happiness, we need to surround ourselves with supportive people
Makes sense.
and, limit our exposure to negativity.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense.
So, it's really about being mindful
Right.
of the energy that we allow into our lives.
Absolutely.
And, who are the people that are lifting us up?
Yeah.
And who are the people that are draining us?
And sometimes those people are really close to us.
Right.
It's not always easy to just cut people out of our lives.
Right. But it's about setting boundaries.
Setting boundaries, exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes that means, having a difficult conversation with someone you love.
So as we wrap up here,
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at all these different ideas from place text.
Yeah, place text. What a fascinating set of excerpts.
And it's clear that, they offer a very different perspective
Definitely.
on happiness. It's not about, having it all figured out.
No.
It's about mindset,
Right.
growth, and connection.
I like that. Yeah.
And I think, one of the key takeaways for me is that
Yeah.
happiness is not a destination.
Right. It's a journey.
It's a journey.
And it's ongoing.
And it's ongoing. And I think that's something that's really important to remember.
Absolutely.
So I guess as we leave our listeners today, one question that I think would be good for them to ponder
Yeah.
is what small steps can they take today
Today.
to move in the right direction?
Right.
Maybe it's embracing some uncertainty. Maybe it's trying something new.
Or being vulnerable with someone you care about.
Exactly.
Yeah. I love that.
So on that note,
Yeah.
thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And we will see you next time
See you next time.
for another fascinating exploration.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.